As journalists, we are quite often reporting on dark stories, shocking stories, bizarre stories. This one from Kerala is particularly so, especially because it started off, in fact, as an investigation into the case of a missing woman. Padma was about 52 years old, was reported missing by her son and her sister, and the police was looking at her mobile phone signals, and that led them to a man called Shafi, or Rashid as he is being identified. Subsequently, they saw that in CCTV footage, she was seen to have been getting into a Scorpio car, and with tracing out where that car actually went, they were led to Elantur, to the house of Bhagaval Singh and his wife Laila. And CCTV footage of a neighbor there, that's what revealed ultimately on October 9 that she had come to that house and that she had gone into that house. The house was put under surveillance, and subsequently the next day the police came down, and the couple was in fact going out, and they were interrogated, and that's when they subsequently, after about 4 to 5 hours of questioning, they revealed that they had in fact murdered this woman Padma. It's only after that that the police actually realized that this is not just one case of a missing woman who's been murdered, but it was also another woman who had been murdered at the same location in perhaps very, very similar circumstances. Kochi Police Commissioner Nagaraju, who I spoke with, said that the way in which this woman was murdered was so gruesome that it is beyond description as well. From what we understand, both this woman Padma as well as the other victim, both of them were lured by Shafi, and he was luring them using social media, had come in touch with them using social media, and subsequently he had promised them a big amount of money for participating in some filmmaking. Presumably that would have been some kind of pornographic material, some blue films that were to be made, is what some sources are telling us. And for that purpose alone, they were brought to this particular couple's house, and from Shafi's side, he had convinced this couple that they should indulge in some kind of human sacrifice so that their financial troubles can come to an end. What the police did after interrogating this couple was that they broke down and they said yes, they had indeed murdered not just one but two women, and they started, the police started sending in teams and digging out the entire place, and what they found was that Padma's body had in fact been cut into 56 pieces, and the other lady's body, who has been identified as Roselin, was cut into at least 5 pieces. Subsequently, they were looking for more pieces on the property as well. What we understand is that this man, who is being now described as the mastermind in this case, he's the accused number 1 in this case. He is some kind of a sexual pervert, and he enjoys sadism, and he is very cruel in inflicting wounds, and he seems to target in fact older women. Roselin was about 49 years old and Padma was about 52 years old. Roselin, in fact, both of them in fact incidentally lottery ticket sellers, and Roselin was living in Kaladi, which is nearby, and she was living with a partner, and Padma in fact had been earlier living, for the last 15 years she'd been living there with her husband, but for the last year or so she was living alone in a rented room in a lodge in that area. The lure of money perhaps brought these women to accompany Shafi and go to this house where this couple had been convinced by Shafi that if they indulged in human sacrifice, their financial problems would go away. The manner in which the murder was committed, what we understand is that the women, their hands and legs were tied up. Perhaps they were told that this is part of the filming process, after which in fact they were cut, their private parts were cut in a very gruesome manner, and what we understand is that even the breast was chopped off, and the blood that came out, that oozed out, was in fact sprinkled around the same property. And what we also understand from sources is another very, very shocking detail, that possibly the three indulged in some kind of cannibalism. The woman, in fact Laila, the wife of Bhagaval Singh, she's said to have told interrogators that they did in fact cook the flesh, roast the flesh, perhaps the private parts, and they had consumed it. Cannibalism, while we do know that cases of black magic or superstition leading to killings is not unheard of, but cannibalism a little more perhaps rare. The Nithari killings that we know of from 2007, that is something that where cannibalism had come up. But otherwise, black magic and such superstitions, just last year, in fact, I had reported on a case from Chittoor district, Madanapalli, where a very educated couple, in fact, a professor, their two daughters were murdered, and the couple seemed to believe that the two daughters would come back alive after being murdered inside their own house by their own parents. And the daughters also seem to have been, in a sense, in a sort of a group delusion. The family seems to have been indulging in these kind of practices. Even recently in June, in fact, we had another case of some kind of a black magic being carried out, and the father, we are told, had forced a 3-year-old child to eat vermilion, and the child subsequently had died. In this case, what we understand is that where the body parts of the first woman, Roselin, were found, there was a bag with vermilion sprinkled on it, and there is also a stone, and the police also were confident that they are going to recover the weapons that were used in the murder of these women. What we understand now is that while there was a case of a human sacrifice, from what the police investigation has found out so far, the man Shafi, who is being described as the mastermind and the accused number 1 in this case, seems to have not just lured these women with the promise of money for acting in a film. He has also exploited the fears or vulnerabilities and won the confidence of this couple and managed to co-opt them into the human sacrifice. The Kochi Police Commissioner, in fact, in a press conference also revealed that this man, in fact, has a criminal past. He is out on bail. He had attempted to murder, and he had in fact raped a very elderly woman, a 75-year-old woman, in 2020, and he had been remanded in that particular case and was out on bail. What this does indicate is some kind of a serial killer pattern, and that's why the police is now investigating whether there were indeed other women who could have been victims of this sexual pervert and sadist, as the police has described him, someone who enjoyed inflicting cruelty on these women. And they also want to find out whether there are other accused in case there are other victims as well. Did he con more numbers of people? Shafi per se is also someone who has been described as a 52-year-old who was a school dropout. He had not even completed primary school, and his family was living away from him. He was living all by himself, and someone who seems to have been using social media, in fact, to get in touch with these women, develop a relationship with them, and subsequently target them for these kind of sexual perversions, and in this case murder as well. Bhagaval Singh and Laila, what we are being told is that in that Elantur area, they were a well-respected couple, and he was in fact, hereditary kind of a massage person. They ran some kind of a massage parlor, and people in the neighborhood, in fact, would come to him for, pains and other kind of things for which they needed his expertise in order to be able to do away with the pains and other kind of joint issues, things that the traditional healing of a massage person would be able to help. Bhagaval Singh is also said to be been part of the CPIM, and that he was also active on social media and had a social media following. All three of them, in fact, were presented before the Sessions Court today in Kochi, and they have been remanded to judicial custody for 15 days. This entire bizarre case, starting with a missing woman and leading to the murder of two women, rather the digging up, the unraveling of the murder of two women, and now the police wondering whether there is more to Shafi's story than just these, because he has had a criminal past and he's being described as some kind of a psychopath, and now these three people have been charged with criminal conspiracy, an abduction and murder as well. We'll keep giving you updates on what transpires in the police investigation in this case, in a case that has in fact shocked not just the people of Kerala but the country. And the irony, like many point out, is that even in a state as literate as Kerala, superstitions continue to reign, and the fears of people or the insecurities of the people continue to be exploited by criminals like Shafi, who is also been described as Rashid. In Hyderabad, Uma Sudhir, NDTV.